Hello and welcome dear learners to the NPTEL course on Nutritional Epidemiology, a way towards a healthy life. For the Module 3, Dietary Assessment, Nutritional Status and Measurement Error, for the Chapter 33, we will be talking about Dietary Data Processing and Nutritional Analysis. So what is Dietary Data Processing and Nutritional Analysis we will understand. Along with that, food composition tables, databases, nutrient calculation methods, software tools for nutrient analysis, and standardization issues in dietary data processing will also be studied. Additionally, we will discuss a case with respect to data processing and nutrition analysis. So, we will try to understand what is dietary data processing and nutrition analysis. So, it is systematically collecting and processing and analyzing food consumption data to estimate the nutrient intake and translate foods into nutrient value using standardized database. So here there will be a understanding of databases, along with that the applications of that to make the nutritional assessment more important. You will have nutritional assessment, it is more important, then it is the monitoring interventions and policy formulation. Whereas on the application part, it is like clinical data planning, it is application, public health surveillance and research study. So it is more an importance additionally with applications to be getting a benefit of a dietary data processing and nutritional analysis. In the basic workflows, you will have a step 1 dietary intake data collection where you will get it from the 24-hour recalls or your food diary or FFQs. Then in step 2, you will get a food coding. Step 3, you will have a portion size conversion which will give you exact measurement, and in step 4 you will have a nutrient calculation. In the step 5 you will get data cleaning, which is very important over here, and in the step 6 you will have nutrient analysis where it is followed by interpretation. So here you can say a dietary data processing and a nutrient analysis, which is a benefit actually to use these standardized databases. Now we will understand more in detail the food composition tables and databases. So a lot of time you may find that there is a systematic compilations of analytical data on the nutritional constituent of the food. So you will have a lot of database types, that food foundations, reference standards and consumer products. So if you talk about Indian food consumption tables by ICMR, which is being given, which gives you more methods to have 151 discrete food components. Okay, there are a lot of options and 528 key food. So among them, if you come across the methodology, the composite regional samples and 6 geographical and statistical interpretation. So the key features are micronutrient beyond macronutrient, food consumed across India, and vitamin, which is specifically A, C and B complex, and minerals, that is iron, zinc and calcium, additionally with amino acids. What are the advantages for Indian studies? It reflects towards regional varieties and cooking practices and indigenous food. But if you count about the limitations, it is like limited processed food data, missing values and variability due to agriculture practices. So now when we talk about USDA Food Data Central, it is something which is giving from an agency called as USDA. The foundational food is analytical data. It has the metadata, sample locations and methods. Also, there are experimental food that is coming from single analysis. Standard reference, that is SR legacy, which is very historical and very curated data, and you will have even an additional survey analysis which is done by NHANES. So USDA Global Branded Food Product Database is something which is more pointing towards the need of commercial food products. So a lot of thousands of food items are included over here, but it is very extensive nutrient profile. And it is something which is very studied with information to get it on food data. What are the features? The features are regularly updated. There is a detailed micronutrient and regulation of discrete component thousands of food items. The advantages is like very high quality data you will get, international recognition to national recognition, but US food differs from Indian preparation. So you will have a difference from this to this. Okay. Now we will go on FAQ, in food databases. Wild and traditional foods, diverse fruits and underutilized crops. What is the object of FAQ? It is like global quality and international standardization. What are the key characteristics? Like 6,411 food items are included and 451 components are variants of this data. The unique features are more pointing towards giving the variability in terms of cultivation, in breed levels with nutrient variance and specifics. The essentiality part of biodiversity studies and traditional food research. So it is more towards a research where the database is more pointing, and the regional database are Asian foods, Euro FIR, Latin foods and Afro foods, African countries. The in-foods food composition is like international nutrients, harmonized descriptions and data exchange format. So the application is more based towards the research part, traditional indigenous foods and food dimensions is being given, and biodiversity. Whereas the limitations are more pointing towards varying the data completeness and data and differences in analytical methods. So there is a differentiation from Indian food composition tables to USDA and FAQs for the data sets. Now we will try to talk about and give you more detailed about nutrient calculation methods. When you talk about protein, carbohydrate, fats, vitamins and minerals, you need to even think about the calculation for their part. So accurate nutrient calculation requires more than simple multiplication. So in epidemiological studies and in specifically with the designs, raw intake data often reflects both the true variation and significant variation. In talks about direct nutrient calculation, it is like a formula that nutrient intake is equal to food consumed in grams multiplied by nutrient value per 100 gram and divided by 100. So if I have to give you an example, it is like you have consumed a rice for 200 gram. Your protein in the rice is 6.8 gram per 100 gram. So what is the protein intake out of that rice? It is like 200 multiplied by 6.8 divided by 100, that is 13.6 gram. So here in this bowl you can say that you will get 13.6 gram of protein intake. Okay. Then we will talk about the recipe based calculation. So Indians, as you know, they are more fond of preparing mixed dishes. The reason is like the list of total ingredients you will get, calculate the nutrient value of each ingredient, sum up the nutrients and divide by total cooked. This is a total cooked meal. Okay, you may have rice, you may have oil, you may have chickpeas, you may have carrots and whole lot of the other things. So example is like vegetable pulao. Okay, so the total nutrients are calculated and you will get the ingredients and you will understand what is the mix of that. Okay, that is recipe based mix calculation. Now you will have a frequency based calculation. Usually it is done in FFQs. So the formula is like daily intake, like you may have it on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, is equal to frequency multiplied by the portion in size. So you may have an example of taking milk every day. So you may say 250 ml of a milk per day. What is the protein? 3.2 gram per 100 ml. So now you have to calculate like 250 per ml per day multiplied by 3.2 divided by 100. So exactly you will get 8 grams of protein for your particular day. So you can say that if you are consuming 250 ml in 100 grams, 100 ml, you will get what? You will have a division of the 250 over here. So the adjustment part is something that you can do it on the daily basis to understand what is the protein intake and what is the adjustment you have to do it. In terms of adjustment, I will further go in more elaboration to give it like edible portion of adjustment. Often people consist of non-edible part, that is the peeling actually. So edible weight is equal to the gross weight multiplied by edible portion in percentage. Suppose the banana is 120 gram but the edible part is 65% only. The edible weight is equal to 120 multiplied by 0.65, that is 78 gram. So out of the total 120 gram, only 78 gram is something that you can say it is edible. The moisture adjustment. Lot of a time you may get something actually which is coming with moisture adjustment where water content changes during cooking. So rice absorbed in the water, the weight is different and the meat loses the water. So meat will what it will do necessary for accurate estimation. Yielding factor adjustment is also being done, which we have discussed in the previous chapter, where the adjustment is more related to the food which is weighed in terms of cooking. Nutrient retention factors, especially vitamin C retention is being seen 0.7, raw vitamin C is 50 milligram. So you may say that vitamin loses especially water soluble vitamins when it is being cooked, and mineral changes during processing, and fat and water content adjustment is also done. Bioavailability adjustment. Not all consumed nutrients are absorbed. So many times it is being seen that the problem is of iron, where the absorption is variation in terms of the bioavailability of your intestine and even the body constituency. Zinc is affected by fluids, and protein digestibility is differ according to the development into your body. Lot of energy calculation methods where you find fat is like 9 calories per gram and protein is like 4 calories per gram, carbohydrate is 4 calories per gram and alcohol is 7 calories. So the standard approach for energy calculation usually depends on the different factors. Now we'll talk about the software tools for nutrient analysis. Nutrient analysis is something which is gaining more importance, and automating nutrient calculation and streamlining the dietary data processes which is being given more. We will have two data processing things, that is Nutri-Survey and DietCal. Talked about the nutrition assessment software, where you will get a benefit of doing research, community nutrition and public health projects. What are the common features of Nutri-Survey? That is create a custom based food database. It is a flexible food coding system. It handles complex survey data structures, compatible with IFCT and USDA database. As you know, it is more a huge number of food items which are being included over there, and export capabilities from the statistical analysis. So it is like a very vast way actually to deal with this, where it is very user friendly, free of cost, useful in low resource settings, but it comes with some limitations of limited updates and smaller food database. Okay, so we will have a comparison once we complete the DietCal. DietCal is a very Indian originated. It is more using the local food, which is more pointing towards the Indian needs, especially Indian context, local food databases and hospital and research based thing. What are the features? Quick nutrient calculation with a single diets also, simple user interface and basic food database integration. So you can use it with the multiple nutrient value inputs and useful for clinical diet counseling, especially which is meant towards the Indian hospitals. The application is more towards individual assessment, clinical nutrient counseling, quick screening and evaluation and patient diet education. So you can understand the application is very vast towards meeting the nutrition requirements. Advantage, especially as known, it is for Indian context, local food databases and suitable for hospital research. Limitations usually comes with regular database update is required and limited regional food in some versions. So you may see the comparison which is being highlighted over here, which is more towards the software and its application. So Nutri-Survey, dietary analysis, DietCal, Indian nutrient analysis. There is again other software like Nutrix, food processor, Isha, food processor and even DietSoft. So most of the time you may see that the application is more on the nutrient analysis part, where versus there is an addition of clinical nutrition which is more pointed by DietCal also. Now we'll talk about the standardization issues in dietary data processing. Okay, accurate nutrient analysis depends on systemic approaches, especially portion size variation, where you may have portion size variation in terms of measurement, in terms of household measurements and packaging sizes. What is the best practice? Always convert to grams and weights for analysis use database specification tools. Then food coding problems. Many times rice generally coded as white rice and cooked. Rice coded hierarchy, which you will find a lot of times a data hierarchy is being coming. Brand confusion, regional variations and preparation state ambiguity, raw versus cooked potato. So what is the solution for that to overcome this? Hierarchical coding systems, standardizing the names and quality control protocols and database harmonization. Very important to be highlighted over here. Raw versus cooked values, very difference. You may have a cooked values of raw rice as 100 gram and cooked rice actually may have a variation in terms of lot of variations. Grains absorb water, steam degrade the ingredients and degrading of the vitamin. So that's the reason cooking versus steaming, fat absorption and mineral. So what is the solution? Match preparation to the database and document it properly. Now we will come about the issues of Indians, especially for mixed dishes. Now you will have key challenges like ingredient proportion variations different from different foods. The regional differences comes with the preparation and cooking methods, especially the problems of documenting is like to standardize protocol where document weighing, specification of preparation, record times, calculation, yielding and applying the retention. So what is the best practice? Use the standardized recipe and document regional variation explicitly if it is there. What are the database resources? I point out towards IFCT 2017, USDA and FAOA. Okay. Then we'll come to a discussion of a case study where a case study is highlighting towards a 24 years old female who is a postgraduate student from an urban area and visits a nutrition clinics actually, complaining of fatigue and reduced concentration. This particular girl is meeting the dietitian and the dietitian conducts a 24 hours dietary call to assess her dietary intake and identify possible nutritional inadequacy. In this particular case, we are more trying to assess the dietary intake of a young Indian adult using 24 hours recall. So 24 hours recall is very important to be taken in this case study. Okay. The collection of the data is more done with respect to early morning. She is having 1 cup of a measurement taking tea with milk and sugar. Breakfast she is having idli sambar 4 pieces and 1 cup. Mid morning actually she is taking banana. Lunch she is taking cooked rice and sambar. And evening snacks is being followed with tea, milk and sugar, biscuits. Dinner she is taking chapati with mixed vegetable curry and at bedtime she is taking milk. So you understand the food coding, each of the food items is assigned a very standard food codes from the IFCT. That is cooked rice IFCT categories given for idli, sambar, banana and chapati also. You will have food coding ensuring the consistency in the nutrient calculation and it facilitates the data comparison across the study. The portions tied standardization is more moving towards the measurement reported by the participant because reporting is very important over here, like how it is being converted in grams weighing using the standard deviations. So the participant is saying as a cup may differ in the standard reference. So what is a cup and even the proportion which is being sized over here. Nutrient calculation. Nutrient values are obtained from IFCT. Suppose like a cooked rice consumed is equal to 300 gram. Energy contained 130 kilogram per 100 gram. So energy obtained is like 390 calories. Okay. Adjustment applied. So edible portion where you can talk about banana and even the edible part of it and non-edible part of it. Mixed dish, you can say there is the nutrient contribution of each of the ingredients and calculated separately. Cooking also yielding, whether you are cooking it raw, whether you are steaming it and all other things. What is the analysis over here? The energy total consumed was 1850 kilograms, while versus for this particular for a day at 24-hour recall, the protein was 48 grams, the fat was 42 grams, Carbohydrate was 290 grams and calcium was 620 grams and iron was 13 milligrams. So you can understand the variation is more towards that the consumption in the overall food was more towards carbohydrates, which is being shown in yellow over here, and the second was in lesser quantity, that was the 10%, that is protein, followed by fats and then other components. What is the comparison with Indian RDA over here? So you may say the energy is in the assessment is slightly low because of the consumption part, where the protein part is 48 grams, which is pointing towards the recommended intake of 46 grams, so it is adequate. Calcium is inadequate and iron is also being seen inadequate. What is the interpretation? The positive findings like adequate protein intake, regular meal pattern and inclusion of cereals, pulses and vegetables. But there are few areas of concern over here. There is low calcium intake, which is being seen in this particular case study, and inadequate iron intake and limited food consumption. Also, high dependence on cereal based foods. Okay, very possible clinical implications suggest that the reported fatigue may be associated with insufficient iron intake. Okay, so what are the common dietary database processing challenges? You may say in terms of proportion in size, you may talk about the recall biases, mixed dish complexity, which is very common in Indian diets, especially for regional recipe variations which may give from Indian household to household, and raw versus cooked food confusion. With this, we have come an end to this chapter, giving you the summary that dietary data processing and nutrition analysis that we were trying to talk about, it involves more collecting, organizing and converting the data dietary intake information into measurable nutrient values, which is more important for nutritional assessment. So with these two variables, we are taking the nutritional assessment. The food composition database such as IFCT 2017, USDA, Food Data Central and FAO in foods are being seen, which are serving as the foundation for nutrition calculation. Accurate analysis requires proper food coding, portion size standardization and adjustment for edible portions, especially in cooking, which is yielding and nutrient retention. There are even software that we have talked about, that is NutriSurvey and DietCal, which facilitates the efficient nutrient estimation and diet evaluation. But we come across some common challenges which include about the portion size variation, food coding errors and raw versus cooked food differences. Also, analysis of mixed dishes becomes more complex. Proper dietary data processing ensures a reliable assessment of nutrient intake, but it should be supported by clinical decision making and it should contribute towards the nutrition research and public health planning. So with this, we have come an end to this chapter. You can take the help of these references which are listed over here and can help actually to understand this topic more better. Thank you.